My duvet is on the couch because my bed is being built today. Speaking of which, I literally do not have time to film this because my friend is coming over to help me build the stupid fucking thing. So, you know, this is a mess already and we've barely gotten started. I can't even remember. We have March. We're talking about March. Realising now I have to get up my list. Okay. Have my list. We are ready to go. Okay. In the month of March, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I read 10 books, so we are going to just speed run this and get them all done and out of the way. March was actually a pretty good reading month though, and I think it's mainly due to the fact that like I read 10 books, so I have a lot to go off. There was 4 5 stars, one of those being a reread, but like 3 new 5-star books is a lot. There was 2 4 stars, 2 3 stars, and 1 2 star. Because it's very hard for me to give a book 1 star because normally I find some merit somewhere there. But let's get into it. The first book I read in March was, I have lost my page, 1 second, With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. I listened to this on Audible. I gave it 5 stars. I love Elizabeth Acevedo's work so far. I have read The Poet X and now With the Fire on High, and I adore them both. I love her verse, I love her writing style, I love her characters, and yeah, I think I like With the Fire on High a bit more than Poet X, and it's mainly down to the main character and because I liked her a lot more and I liked her story a lot more and I connected with it more. With the Fire on High is about a girl in high school who has a daughter and has dreams of being a chef and everything, and has dreams of like being a professional chef, and it's basically about her trying to pursue those dreams and allowing herself to go after that and realising that she has to put herself first sometimes as well, and she has to go after what she wants instead of just doing what everyone else wants for her. And I really liked it. I'd recommend listening to this on like in audiobook format because Elizabeth Acevedo does a fucking brilliant job at reading her books. I think her like the way she reads is amazing because it just fits with the verse and she knows what she's doing because she knows how this is supposed to sound, and I would 100% recommend it. The next book I read in March was And the Band Played On by Randy Schultz. I read this for my history project for Leaving Cert, and this is one of my sources and it's thick and it took me so fucking long. It literally took me like, I started at the start of summer last year. So it's been a while, and it was because I just kept procrastinating it because it's written like loads of news articles. I gave it 4 stars. This is obviously about the AIDS epidemic and it focuses on the start of the epidemic and the first few years of it. I think it goes up to 1985 or 1984, and it's basically just showing how nobody fucking did anything and that's how it got worse, and it focuses on the select few who actually tried to make it, like to solve the epidemic and to make it have the least amount of impact that it could. I thought it was enjoyable at parts because he writes it like fiction. Like each of the people involved is like a fictional character, and they're like, he does their like dialogue and inner thoughts at times due to the amount of interviews he had to do for this and the amount of research that went into it. The reason this is 4 stars and not 5 stars is 1, because I'm a dumbass and anytime medical stuff came up I just zoned completely out because I cannot do science and anything like that. I find it very, very fucking boring, and like that wouldn't be a flaw on its own enough to write it down, and it's but that paired with the whole patient zero thing and the whole Gaetan Dugas bit, where if you don't know, it's basically like very like wrong, and it basically paints him to be a villain in this book and paints him to be like the one who started the epidemic, the one who brought the epidemic to America. And it's just like, even when I was reading it I was like, no, like I know what he was trying to do in this book, but it's just like, it's a real, like Gaetan is a real person, and that's why it doesn't work, because it paints him as like a villain when he was just a victim of this epidemic. But other than that, it is a good factual source for like projects. If you're doing a project on the AIDS epidemic, which I am, mainly focusing on San Francisco, but you just have to ignore all the Gaetan stuff and just pretend it's not there and just breeze through it because all of it is bullshit basically. And there's been like documentaries and stuff made on that bit, and I'm gonna be honest, if I had read this source and I was supposed to, I probably would have changed my whole project to be about the whole Gaeton versus Randy Schultz thing because I find it really interesting. The next book I read in March was Percy Jackson, The Last Olympian. I gave this book 5 stars. This is the 5th book in the Percy Jackson series. If you've been like following me reading this, mainly from watching my 2021 yearly wrap up where I talked about all of them, the ratings for these have gradually gone up and now it's at 5 stars. And I think the last book is brilliant. I think it's very fun and I think it's a good wrap up for the whole series, and it brings everything together in a fun way. And also, it's the one with the most Nico. What more can you ask for? The next book I read was Golden Boys by Phil Stamper. I gave this book 3 stars. It is about 4 boys who are best friends, who have been best friends for years, and during one summer, the last before they go into like their final year of school, they all basically go off in separate ways and they're all scattered around the place doing their own thing, and they're worried about if this is going to ruin their friend group and if they're going to be able to recover from this. And I thought it was fun. The bit that really annoyed me though was there was no physical descriptions for any of the boys. Like barely any. Like one of them had glasses, found that out like 70% of the way through, and I've been picturing him without glasses the whole time. And that's because the way I like physical descriptions done in books is just give me a fucking chunk of information right off so I know what I'm picturing with these bitches. And then throughout it, do little reminders of how they look. Like with the blonde hair thing, like with the glasses thing, just one-off comments. But you need to have the big chunk of description because otherwise I don't know what these people look like and it just changes throughout the thing and it's very fucking annoying to try and follow. But anyway, I thought it was fun. 2 of them had romance. They're all, oh yeah, I should have mentioned this because it's important to the plot. But like again, I don't know how diverse they are because I don't know what they look like. So like I can't. Like one of them, his family was like, could speak Spanish and stuff. So I was like, right, he's like Latino in some way. And then they keep talking about how he's pale as fuck. And I was like, okay, and he can't even speak Spanish, I'm pretty sure. So I was like, what is going on? Phil, just give me the descriptions. I think this has been a problem like with his other books as well, and I just didn't notice it then. The next book I read was a reread for this month, and it was Red, White and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Seriously. Love this book, 5 stars. I think it's a really good fucking romance. I acknowledge that it does have some flaws, but I just refuse to see them. I just ignore them, okay? I think it's a really fun romance. That's why I like it. I love the characters. It feels like proper escapism, and you know, that's what I needed. I did go through and I did tab, like, and highlighted loads of quotes and stuff. That's mainly what this reread was about, was actually tabbing it, because the first time I read it on my Kindle, and then this time around I had the physical copy. So did go through and just tab it on. What's this book about? You may be wondering because I didn't say. This is a romance about the Prince of England and the first son of the United States, who are like both young, in their 20s, fall in love, have an enemies to lovers forbidden romance thing going on, and it is great. Alex Claremont Diaz, fucking love him. Relate to him a bit too much with the bi disaster thing. Would recommend, 100%. I think it's very fucking fun. I think Alex is a great protagonist as well, because you're in his POV, and like, even Henry. I love this book so much. I would 100% recommend you go and read it, and to save time for me not going in on this book and just making this whole wrap up about this book, I'm going to move on. The next book I read was a 2-star read. It was The Crown of Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This series is way too long. I can't deal with it anymore. I'm done. I'm DNF in this series. I don't care anymore. It's done. Because if you, no, it's 6 books. I can't do another 3 books of this shit. It is the same shit repeated over and over again. I don't mind long fantasy series. I mind long fantasy series when it's just the same bullshit over and over again. Nothing happened in this book. It could have been like 100 pages. I swear to God. Stop. I just yelled stop and my camera stopped. I'm going to check that out because I don't know what's happening. I'm done. I've read way too much of this trilogy and I don't think it's worth it. I don't like any of the characters. It just feels like pain. Anytime I'm reading it, it feels painful. I pray to God I didn't already buy the 4th book on Audible, because then I will end up reading it, because I don't like to waste money, but if I didn't, then I'm not doing it. And I'm done. I've given her 3 chances. 3 chances. And like, I don't like, it's not like I'm missing anything, because nothing happens. I get the gist of what these books are about. I'm done. That's enough for me. See ya. Okay, on to fantasy books I actually enjoyed. The next book I read was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I gave this 5 stars. It has become my like new favourite YA fantasy series, and I didn't expect it. I thought it would be like an average fantasy series for me, but I've actually fallen in love. I'm currently on the 2nd book, and I like literally spent all day yesterday like binge reading the first half. And the only reason I stopped was because I started binge reading Bridgerton season 2. But anyway, Cruel Prince, fucking love it. Jude and Carden, I adore them both. It really like ignites the bisexual in me, because I cannot decide who I want to be with. I love their dynamic so fucking much, and I like, if you don't know what The Cruel Prince is about, it's a YA fantasy series about this girl who goes to the like world of the fairies, and like her sister's half fairy, and she gets like brought into this world, and Jude basically wants to take over this world and watch it burn. You're in her POV, and I think she's very entertaining, and I think her struggles are very good. I'm not gonna waffle about this book. I think you should read it. I think it's amazing. 5 stars. I'm probably gonna talk more about it when I finish the trilogy, but I'm really hoping it stays the same quality. Right now it has with the Wicked King, and I love these characters so much, and it is exactly what I want from an enemies to lovers, where it's like murderous knife girlfriend versus like dickhead boyfriend, but also like doesn't want to murder people. That's what I need, and this is what Jude and Carden provide. Like Poppy and what's his face Hawk Castile could never. The next book I read was A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. I gave this book 5 stars. It's about a, how old is he, like 13-year-old boy dealing with grief and dealing with the idea of death and coming to terms with it, and coming to terms with his guilt over that and everything, because his mother is basically in late stages of cancer and is dying, but he refuses to admit that. And then one night a monster shows up at his window and is like, "Hey bitch, do I have a story for you?" And then the two of them, the monster continually shows up and tries to help Connor with what he's dealing with, and Connor just refuses to admit anything's wrong. And I think it's really good. I love the illustrations. I think it adds so fucking much to the story. The overall theme and everything is just amazing, and I think Patrick Ness does a great job at it. So I would 100% recommend this book. Okay, we're almost done. That's why I want to breeze through this. The next book I read was Curse of the Night Witch by Alex Astor. I gave this book 3 stars. I don't know why this keeps capping at like 4 minutes, but whatever. I think the world building in this book was very good, and that was my favourite part about it. Like the little pieces of information we get about the monsters and the places the kids are travelling to, amazing. What's this book about? Yeah, gotta get into that. This book is about 3 preteens who go on an adventure after being accidentally cursed by one of the idiots' tour. So he drags his besto and his like rival with him to cure this curse, because he accidentally curses them as well. And they have to go on an adventure around their island to try and save them. And they basically are in search of the Night Witch, who's the bitch who cursed them. To get her, basically, they have to go to different monsters along the trail to lead them up to like the Shadow Realm where the Night Witch lives. And I thought it was really entertaining, because I think it's really addicting, and I think it like has its audience. I didn't properly connect with any of the characters. For the sequel, I feel like I will, because I'm going to read the sequel because I really like the world building and stuff. But there was just like a few flaws I had. And there was also consistency errors along with their adventure, where the kids would like get a magical item and then just wouldn't fucking use it. Like at one point they were lost in the desert and they had a compass and they just didn't think to use the compass. I wouldn't have minded if like they used it and it was broken or some shit, or like they thought of using it, and then they said no because they didn't know which way was north or anything, or where they started. But just like, there's just no mention of it, and it really annoyed me. I'm excited to read the next one though, and I'm hoping that the next one I will connect with more, and I'll end up liking the next one more than I like this one. The final book I read in March was Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. I gave this book 4 stars, and if you want to know my thoughts on it, you can watch the reading vlog I'm putting out for it. So, you know, stay tuned. That is going to be like a spoiler thing. Like, it is just going to be spoilers of me talking about that book. But you know what? Who cares? You know, just watch it. Thank you. That is everything. I'm very tired. I don't have much else to add. The camera keeps cutting off at 4 minutes, so I don't know what is happening. This whole thing has been a disaster, but you know what? It's fine. I'm not going to be a published author for a few years, so you know, I have time to be professional. Until then, goodbye.